And we're going to start today with our first keynote speaker. Rick Lisa is the director of the IoTG group at Intel, responsible for all of the United States. And he has been a partner with us from the very beginning of our relationship. And I want to welcome Rick Lisa to the stage. Yep.
Good morning. So Richard told me that I got to be sharp and fast because the really good speakers are coming up after me. And I want to make sure that I get you guys the messages that I think are important, at least from the way we see the market evolving. I'll tell you, as Richard said, by the time I'm done, hopefully you'll get an appreciation for how important we think Commander is and why we think the relationship with KMC and this audience is critical to our future. All right, so let's get on with it. And again, I'm going to try to go as quickly and smoothly as I can. I'll be around for the day. So if you have questions or you have interest in what I'm showing, don't hesitate to seek me out and be happy to talk with anybody here in the room. What we're really going to talk about is managed services. At the end of the day, when you look at a product like Commander and you look at what we're really talking about here, the dynamic in the industry is now around managed services. Your customers, building owners, are trying to figure out how to make a more compelling environment within the facilities they own. And to do that, they're going to focus on making their tenants happier so that they stay in the facilities they own. And or if it's corporate real estate, they want to make their workers more comfortable. If it's governments, they want to be able to figure out how to give their constituencies a better living environment. It all comes back to how do we drive satisfaction back into a consuming entity, the customer, to make sure, in your case, from a building standpoint, the tenant, to make sure that they're enthused with the environment they're in, they feel good about their interaction with the product, and that they're going to keep coming back for more again and again and again. And in your world, tenancy, keeping buildings full, is what your customers care about most, and doing that in an efficient, an operationally efficient manner. So how do we drive operational efficiency back into the business? That's the hallmark of managed services. That's really what we're trying to drive back into the business. And we're going to get an idea of how big that is. A little perspective, though, is the rate of change. Industry and technology are moving faster and faster together in a way we've never seen before. It used to be that things would progress on a 7 to 10 year kind of cycle. We'd see major innovations in technology. If you go back before the 50s, it was probably every 50 years. If you go back before 1900, it was probably every 100 years. You'd see big shifts in things that were happening. But the rate of change is accelerating. And when you come all the way out to 2018, and you look at the autonomous vehicle, this is a game changer. This is a big time thing that's happening in the industry right now. The ability to sit in a car, and the car guides itself over the street safely. It steers, it drives, it makes decisions. It deals with real-time information and allows you as the owner-operator to have a safe, comfortable environment where, frankly, you can be more productive because driving is a full-time activity. So when you look at autonomous vehicles, it's driving a whole new dynamic in terms of the idea around what a service actually means, right? Because we're suddenly giving away human control to machine control and letting the machine do the work for us, right? This is game-changing. It's game-changing in a lot of ways. And it's actually changing the way Intel sees its world. And hopefully it'll help you understand how your world is changing in the built environment, and even in new construction. Our CEO went and visited a couple of the autonomous vehicle companies, and what he learned was that if you put just 1 million autonomous vehicles on the road, that's the equivalent of half the world's population in the amount of data it produces on a daily basis, right? So 1 million cars equals 3.5 billion people's worth of data, all right? It's massive. And so that compelled our CEO to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're known for our processors. We build, technology. But at the end of the day, what are we really all about? We're the company that's going to actually be moving the data, processing the data, giving the data to the users so that they can do things that are important with it. And frankly, I would suggest that you're all in the same business now. Your customers are looking for information, they're looking for data, they're looking ways to become more compelling in the way they manage their facilities and the way they interact with their customers, their tenants. And they want the information, they want the data, they want to be able to build a services platform. And you guys sit at the crux of how we merge traditional operational technology with new information technology capabilities that allow your customers to have better insights into what makes their facilities more compelling to their tenants and to them as owner-operators. So we're all data companies now, whether we know it or not. And for us to come to that realization and understand that it's not about necessarily the silicon or the processor or whether it's Intel inside, but how we're helping enterprise deal more efficiently with the operations of their business and helping them connect to new services that allow them to actually have control of their environment is really what we're enabling as a company. And the market is moving quickly. Again, when you put at the bottom of the slide a B or a T after a number, it tends to get the attention of a lot of people real fast, right? Because at the end of the day, volume is what drives anybody's interest in an industry and in a business. And if you're Intel, I've been with Intel for 7 years, if you're Intel, if you can't see your way to doing, a couple million units a month, it ain't worthwhile, right? So for us to make deep investments in this space and to understand, how we become impactful in this space, understanding the bottom two items on this chart, you get a pretty good idea of why we're so interested and why I think at the end of the day you should be interested, because this is what's going to drive the 5 million commercial buildings, all the government buildings, all of the corporate buildings to come back and say, you know what, how do I get in this game? How do I actually drive value out of my property? And that's going to be two levels. Not only the new services they can sell that drive revenue into their pocket, but the profits they can deliver by running a more operationally efficient facility. Along the way, you're going to see new dynamics. We're just starting the technology journey, by the way. I'm just finished reading a book that really impacted me. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I recommend you do. Origin by Dan Brown. Very interesting book. It's fiction, but it's interesting when you get to the end. If you get out 10, 20, 15 years from now, what we're doing today with technology is going to look like the way we see a Neanderthal. The rate of acceleration of technology, the adoption, the things that are going to change. When you look at things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, virtual reality, artificial reality, you start looking at things like next-gen comms, what 5G will bring in terms of ubiquitous communications at very low cost, at very high bandwidth. The ability to process video as part of a new services stream. Looking at how we distribute compute and intelligence all the way down to the operational element within a facility. Edge and the word fog compute. What does fog compute mean? It's a really stupid term that basically means we take all the analytics you think you're doing in the cloud and we move it into the facility. We move it right down to the point of data creation. But when you look at workload consolidation, which we think is another big thing, and what we mean by workload consolidation, and everybody gets these terms and they throw it around with them, and I never think they ever define them well for us, right? But what workload consolidation means is I don't want to buy separate point solutions to do everything I want to do in a facility. I want to look at how do I bring information, data, technology, applications, and analytics together in order to deliver a more uniform, unified services environment that lets me see my operation from a single pane of glass. So how do I take all the different things I want to do, but bring it together in a place where I can now see it with high levels of command, control, and decision authority? And that's what workload consolidation is all about. you're going to see this accelerate. We're seeing it now with examples like what GE is doing with lighting in the city sense, where a typical street light today has an audio detector. It has a video camera in it. It's got motion detection. It's got, yes, an LED light that's more energy efficient, and it senses its environment and knows what's going on. But that's workload consolidation. I can build a lot of applications when I have a high degree of sensing in my environment that allows me to drive new constituent services out to the market. So when you look at first responder situations, traffic, parking, the ability to interact with people to create a city network, these are all new dynamics that are happening called workload consolidation, and it's all happening in a light head, right? One thing drives that, right? New York City puts 360,000 of these up in their city. They suddenly have a very pervasive, very aware sensing network that allows them to see everything that happens in the city in real time. That's where we're headed. So this is going to get more and more compelling, and it's going to accelerate. We've started to look at this a little differently than we have in the past, in that we're really trying to look at this from an enterprise concept. And I think what you're going to find out is your customers, and this is where IoT has failed up till now. You know, I think Cisco just published a report that said somewhere in the order of 75% of all IoT projects fail. And the reason they fail is because they're all done as one-off experiments. Everybody's sort of doing their little POC, proof of concept. You know, the customer has probably 5, 6 people all doing their little POC lab, IoT lab, whatever the case may be. So they have 20 guys that are all claiming they're the IoT expert in the building, right? And nobody's on the same page. So what we're doing now is we're actually getting the customer to look at IoT as an enterprise capability, an enterprise value, and to do it across all the processes that run their business, all their facilities, all their people that need to be connected, both internal and external, and their products. Now, in your case, your customer's product is their building, but that building has processes. It is a premise. It has people. How do you connect all these things together and then build a compelling services environment that is managed, aware, alert, predictive, prescriptive, and preventative to create the best result possible for the operator owner and all the people that are in his building? And to do that, leveraging information technology along the way. So we're approaching all of our engagements now with this model. How do we get to a full enterprise concept? And it's really making a difference. Now, this is a brand new report, and I really, really suggest you guys go grab it. It's called the Hitachi IoT Report. It was done by Forbes. It just got published yesterday, okay, for 2017. And I want to point out a couple things here. If you look at the Americas region, right, only 6% of the companies interviewed, and it was basically the Fortune 1000, only 6% of the companies interviewed are in the early stages of planning their IoT game plan, their data managed services game plan. When you hear IoT, throw it away and think connected infrastructure delivering managed services. That's what we're talking about when we talk about IoT. Only 6% of companies are in the early stages in the US. And from a number standpoint, no region is more aggressive right now about implementing managed services. And most of them now want to approach it from a corporate enterprise perspective, not from a project by project perspective, which has been the history up till now. So what are the slides telling you? Big opportunity, because most companies right now, most organizations are trying to figure out how to either make it a major contributor, how to make it a significant program, or how to actually get their pilot programs up and operational at corporate scale. We need platforms to be able to do that. They want to now approach it not as one-off projects and a bunch of little POCs, but as a corporate strategic capability. This is a big deal, right? Moreover, it's happening in every industry, and if you look at why they're doing it, it's to drive customer experience. And again, the customer experience for your customers is the people that live, work, and operate within a facility. So that premises piece of the 4P strategy is actually one of the most important, and in our view, the most attainable right now as part of a managed services infrastructure. How big is this? Now, by the way, this room, our history, is all about hardware. We're a hardware company by definition. I start at the computer and the computing device. Richard would bring it up a level to the hardware deployed within the facility, and you guys were all about getting that hardware installed in the facility and building a relationship with your customer. Going forward, what this chart is telling you, and this is Harvard Research just published, by the way, that 570 billion plus 387 billion services is the game. 95% of the market opportunity is services. 5% is hardware. And if you really want to make me feel bad, I'll tell you, the processor is only 1% of the equation. So do people really care what the processor is? No, not really. Do they really care what the hardware is? No, not really. What they care about is, can I deliver a service that's compelling to my business and to my customer? And if I can, I'm all in. And what I would argue is that Richard, through things like Commander and through the evolution of the product line, is giving you the perfect vehicle to enter in to this massive opportunity in front of us in terms of the managed services that we can deliver. I think spend your next couple days going through the, how do I do this? How do I get into this game? And I think what Richard has attempted to do, I think it's noble, is how do we take the IT experience of our VAR and integrator community on the IT side and merge that with the deep operational technology experience of this room to actually accelerate this in the building space on a platform provided by one of our most important partners, the guys at KMC. The market's going to evolve through these three stages. Now, in the vehicle space, we're already at the third stage. You're already seeing autonomous vehicles, self-driving, self-deterministic, self-updating. They take themselves through the environment on their own. But today, 85% of the market opportunity in a connected managed infrastructure environment is around taking the built space and connecting it to infrastructure that allows us to make these decisions and to drive these services on adding a little bit of capability to the building as opposed to replacing the building. People aren't going to tear down all the buildings and build new ones to make them smart. We're going to have to basically bring technologies in that help them become connected with what's happening within their facilities. And then as we move into new appliances that are smart and finally autonomous buildings that manage themselves, we can actually fuel the transition from an unconnected environment becoming connected, taking advantages of new smart technologies like Commander when they come down the path, and then eventually helping customers get to this autonomous vision. What Richard has done and what you guys are here to do and help us do is really important to us. We recently launched a new program we call IoT Market Ready Solutions. What does this mean? For us, what it came down to after 3-4 years of trying to figure out how to get this market to start was that it was more complex than just telling the world that there was an opportunity. You actually had to give them things they could work on to actually implement the vision that we're talking about. And for that, it had to be something that they could quickly acquire, deploy, install, and deliver results from. So we created a program called IoT Market Ready Solutions, and what we do is we bring in offerings from our market. We evaluate those offerings against 28 criteria. What we're really trying to figure out is, are they deliverable? Are they available? Can somebody order it? And I would argue that KMC Commander is one of those things that's orderable and available, and if I'm not mistaken, Richard, you want business? So the door's open, the shingle's been hung. It's time to bring customers through the door. That it's commercially available, it's deployed, it's available in the market. We have use cases where it's already been implemented. It's supporting business insight. It's delivering a managed services platform. upon which new services can be built and ideated and created and evolved over time, that it really does drive value back into the owner-operator so that they're seeing a return on the investment of bringing that product in. And for us, it's important that there's an Intel value built around it. So we've built these market-ready solutions across every industry, including smart buildings. We also kind of consider the Commander solution and what KMC does to be a part of our energy offering. We see it as an energy smart building capability. But as Richard's learning and as we believe, an asset is an asset is an asset. And whether that asset lives in a factory or it lives in a building or it lives on the street or it's in a car, cab, automobile, train, truck, pick it, even us as people, as assets, it's all connectable. And so Richard's given you a highly flexible platform in Commander that we believe is one of those kind of important game-changing offerings that allows us to go to market. Richard, the KMC Commander offering was, I think, one of our first half a dozen defined and announced Intel market-ready solutions. What does that mean? What it means to us is that we actually allow our salespeople, our 4,500 salespeople around the world, to retire their quota by selling Commander. We pay our people to sell Richard's product. Now, by the way, do you think our people know a damn thing about installing stuff in a building, integrating it with building systems and technologies, working with trades, pulling wire, setting up communications lines and networking in a facility? No, we don't know how to do that. We know the IT world, so when I talk about 4Ps plus IT, we're usually pretty good with the customers and the businesses on their information technology requirements. But when it comes to creating a smart facility that is delivering a managed service and installing, deploying, and integrating that to an operational technologies environment, we're blind as a bat. That's where we need you. That's where we need the relationships with you to help us. So what's important to us coming out of today is for you to understand that we have a large sales force, as does our team at Arrow and our team at Dell, that are waiting and working, are currently searching out opportunities, and will come to you, will need you, will absolutely love to work with you on how do you help us close our business and move it forward so we can help Richard grow his. And there's mutual benefit around everybody sitting at that table. So we're excited about the future. We think we're on the cusp of something dramatic. The rate of change is going to be amazing. And I would encourage you guys to start talking with your customers and thinking about how you're going to change the discussion, how you're going to change the approach, how you're going to become a data company and the delivering entity of a managed services opportunity that represents 95% of the billions and trillions that they're talking about coming down the path in the future. So thank you for letting me open up. Hopefully this gives you some things to think about, and it tees up the rest of the time that you're here. Thank you again.